Okay, so this is Nemo right before the video came out. I had a friend who contacted me who's also been playing this game, and she told me that this game took her like 10 hours to beat. My biggest complaint with the game outside of combat was how long this game was for me. For me, it was only about 5.5 hours. Maybe I just flew through it faster than I thought I did. I know that's super frustrating because a majority of my complaints about this game is the length, but I felt like I had to let you guys know straight off the bat that this was apparently just my experience. Anyway, on with the video. What is up, everybody? It is Nima here, and today I want to talk about a game that I just beat recently. It is a game called Nova Hearts, and I do have to thank the publishers for allowing me to review this game by sending me a review copy. And while I do think that this is going to be a divisive game, because even when I go down each category of all the measurables, I still am almost split half and half on it, but yet I don't feel 50% about the game. Like a 50% on a rating score for video games would be a fail, and I don't feel that this is a fail, but we will talk about that as we get into the video. But please first hit that like and subscribe button. It really means the world to me and costs you absolutely nothing. So anyway, in the story of Nova Hearts, you play as Lucy, a college-aged girl who is heading back to her hometown for the summer, a town by the name of Vermilion. She did live with her father, and that's where she went to school, but after an event that took place that was rather negative to Lucy, she decided she needed a break from all that, and to move in with her mom, take a little vacation, stay in Vermilion, reconnect with some of her people, and just decompress a little bit. And as the game starts out, you're already being bothered by your father, who's letting you know that he is sorry for not taking you, but he does impress upon you the fact that he feels that this town is just weird. He doesn't really go into many details about it, but just saying he does not mesh with Vermilion, some weird stuff had happened, and he hopes you have a good time. And as you're wrapping up that conversation, your mother comes up to welcome you home and let you know that she invited one of your old friends from middle school over to visit, an individual by the name of Will. You haven't seen her in a long time, and she's definitely changed. She also brought someone else that you used to know from middle school, someone by the name of CJ, and they've definitely changed. You kind of catch up with your friends, have a good time, and they invite you to a party that evening. They talk about this big garden party that like everybody goes to and everyone gets down at. It's like the place to be. And even though you do have dialogue options, one of them is to not go. You cannot not go. You have to go to this thing. So reluctantly, you end up going to this party. Now, this is when the game really starts getting weird. You see, you have a lot of conversations at this place, and in almost all dialogue, you have a choice. And so with this, you're kind of flirting with people and kind of deciding who you might hook up with. There's a number of candidates that are ready to party. And as you think that this is where the game is building up to and this is what you're doing, all of a sudden, you get attacked. In fact, the entire party gets attacked by, like, these furball things. They look kind of like Squishmallows, like cat versions of Squishmallows. You can't really say that because of legal purposes, but anyway, as you would think, everybody is completely taken by surprise. And that is when a more surprising thing happens, actually. You morph into a superhero, but you're not the only one. You see, you were actually hanging out with CJ when this whole thing happened, and CJ too also turned into a superhero. Now you guys have the ability to fight these Squishmallows, and you're able to take them on pretty easily. At the same time, the whole party is running away, you lost your friends, you're looking for your friend Will, you have no idea where she's at. The whole town seems to be attacked by some weird creatures, not just the Squishmallows, mind you. In fact, there was reports about a 6-foot-tall werewolf in a thong walking around. So the whole place has gone crazy. Without there being much of a path forward, you and CJ decide to head to your respective homes and come up with a plan to find your friend, as well as maybe even save the entire city. Also, hopefully figure out why you just turned into a superhero. And this is really where the game kicks off, and I don't want to ruin much more for you guys. Even though I went through the intro of it, I also didn't really give away a lot of the game because so much of the early stuff is the dialogue, the options, the people you talk to. And I think that that too is going to be a bit divisive, just like, well, everything else. But I want to start with the combat. You see, it is a turn-based combat, and when you first start the combat, it's really simple. Like, your characters only have 2 attacks. They have like a special attack and a normal attack. Well, as time goes on, you will be able to develop a couple other attacks, as well as synergize to create combos. You see, the game uses like an active time battle meter, and if you know what that is, it is essentially like you choose a move, and then you will see at the very bottom of the screen, there's like a battle timeline. On this timeline, every combatant is represented with their icon, and you'll basically see when they're going to be able to attack, or I should say when their actual attack is going to be implemented. Now, the interesting thing about this game, and something that I find really creative, is you can actually put your attack wherever you want on the timeline, and you can actually match it up with one of your other allies to create a combo. This is something that is really smart, something I haven't ever seen done in this type of game before, so I really have to give them some props for that. On the other hand, I can't lie, the battle mechanics are just really simple. Outside of upgrading your moves every now and then, it doesn't really expand with many new moves or even evolve into anything a little bit more complex. And personally, I was fine with the battle mechanics, I just wish that they had more moves. It seemed like you're very limited on what you could do. The other major part of this game has got to be the story, and I do think, again, this is going to be something that's divisive, and it's not just because of the context. You see, if you actually play the game, you would know that the content may not appeal to certain people, like your uncle that just watches Fox News or Newsmax all day. He may not be into this game, and you know what? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not a game for him. But for me, I'm not even talking about that kind of content. I'm actually talking about the fact that this is a half, like, RPG fighting evil monsters, half dating sim in a way, where there is a lot of potential for hookups and whatever, but it really, to me, feels like a majority of the dialogue, which was written really well. I definitely want to make that known. I feel like the writing on this game was great. It felt like there was a lot of people just talking, like how they have conversations, like when friends get together. It felt very honest and organic that way. But outside of the dialogue, the storytelling was kind of weak, and it almost didn't even really sync together. Like, there was two different worlds going on. There was the moment where the whole town's under attack by these crazy monsters, and then there's this other side where you're like flirting with people and, trying to figure out who's gonna be your bae. Don't judge me, I'm over 30. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, the two worlds never really seem to meet, and when they do, it doesn't always make sense. And I think part of it is just because the game does feel kind of rushed. Like, I truly think that this is one of those games that could be comfortable at 15 to 20 hours long, but in actuality, the game's like 4 to 5 hours long. And I just noticed there to be like a lack of payoff for the character that you're kind of curating. With the decisions that you're making, you're kind of building it into something else, and like it never comes to fruition just because of how short the game is. And to me, that's a huge issue. And of course, that also goes down with the money aspect too, because this is, I believe, $24.99. That's a lot of money for a 4 to 5 hour experience. But I can say without a doubt, there is a lot of quality into this game. One of the things I noticed right off the bat is it looks really good and it performs really well. The controls are very responsive. All those things that you want in a game are there, and they are solid, incredibly so. You can really tell that the team that developed this game really cared about it. And when I look at it as a whole, I think that might be why I'm judging the story a little harsher than most. I see the potential here, and I actually see like potentially a series out of it. There's a lot of stuff to look at and go, wow, I can see this working down the line. Or if they had made a bigger game. Like, it sort of reminded me of a casuals version of Persona. You know, without the fun open world stuff and the fact that that would have been like episodic and each episode would have been $25. You get what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's, the top of the mountain, in which for me is Persona 5. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there is the potential for this to be that at some point, and I really like the direction they're going, but it's hard for me to say, hey, you should spend $24.99 on a 4 to 5 hour game, and that's really where I'm torn about my rating on the game. Again, I think there's great building blocks, I think there's a lot here to like, but it's just not enough. And like I said, even the story, I think, especially towards the end, suffers because of this. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on Nova Hearts. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Is this a game you've heard of? Is this a game that you're going to check out? Are you going to wait for a sale, or are you going to pass on it? Anything and everything in that comment section down below is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.